Oh, well, welcome everyone. I'll call to order tonight's meeting of the Climate Action Planning Committee. Welcome, nice to see you again. The first item on the agenda this evening is to discuss and approve the minutes from our March meeting. Are there any comments or corrections?
Move the adoption of the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And Ron, you seem to be taking notes.
So, we're good.
Yes. I forgot to confirm, but it seems like it wasn't necessary.
Yeah. No, I don't know how they're gonna turn out. I've never done this.
We'll do our best.
We got the recording, so we can go back.
Yeah,
Okay.
marvelous. And then the second item is a discussion and vote on a committee mission statement. And Ron, maybe you can be relieved of note-taking duties for a moment to introduce this one.
Yeah.
I got the, this hand up to the statement there.
What's that? So,
John did? Yeah.
yeah. So I think I brought this up after the last meeting and I was emailed back and forth with Alex, who actually had done some work on this. So between the suggestion I made and some stuff that I think you already had in hand, we came up with this. I felt that we should, that we needed a short terse statement of what we're about that we could hand out and give to people. So this is it, this is a draft. And, anybody have any comments?
So I see two. What is,
Oh, is there a different one?
which, I see the suggested.
Yeah, mine,
Did you pick this one up?
I printed this one out from the documents that you'd sent out.
are they the same?
They look the same.
No, they're a little different.
Oh,
This says greenhouse gas pollution.
Yeah, they're a little
Well,
different.
let's go with this one. This is the one I recall right in.
Okay.
Discussing with Ron.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that this was a valuable thing, not something we need to spend a ton of time on, but I do, the more effort I put into public engagement, the more I find that less is more and repetition is key. And a one sentence summary of what we do that kind of captures the essentials of our charge, I think is going to be really important in making people aware of what we're doing and how they can engage with us. Does anybody have reactions to the mission statement?
I have a reaction to the use of the word pollution versus emissions.
oh, yeah.
Kind of like emissions better.
That's fair. I'll tell you where that came from. I was watching a talk by I can't remember the name of the organization that is a marketing research firm that with one foot in academia that had done a really sort of global study of messaging approaches around climate change that are effective. And one of their findings was that talking about pollution resonates with a much broader
Okay.
audience. There's like pollution-based imagery. You know, it's more of a response from people. It was one of several findings. Another one was that, they sort of market tested
Yeah,
a variety of messages on the why of like why should we act on climate, things ranging from more clean energy jobs, it's good for the economy to do it for your children, and do it for your children is by a factor of 5 to 10 the most powerful messaging. So anything that's sort of is too scientific or too technical leaves lots of people.
should we
Unmoved.
add something about future generations? Like, and prevent damaging impacts from climate change to ensure a future for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a balance to be struck here. For sure, brevity. And I'm just for clarity, I'm not opposed to changing it back to emissions
Yeah.
because people know things.
I
Yeah.
would make one minor suggestion that instead of prevent damaging impacts, I would say mitigate impacts, which with that word,
Yeah.
includes both prevent and deal with.
Right. I was trying to keep the grade level of the language. I mean, so that was an intentional change.
Yeah.
I think prevent is just simpler, plainer, but
Yeah,
True.
mitigating is also.
We were so
I'm not
well
gonna die on
versed
that hill.
in it.
I do think it's a danger of using convenient terminology that we're all familiar with, but many people are not. I feel mitigate is a risk management word.
I agree. I had written down mitigate as well, and wanted to ask a question. And that is, whether or not we want to singularly focus only on greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, greenhouse gas emissions and preventing the damaging impacts. So, I mean, I feel like those are the two major threads that we focused on, right?
yeah, most of the dialogue within the climate community, which admittedly may be skewed too technically, talks about mitigation on the one hand, in prevention and adaptation on the other hand. So, yeah.
Oh, you're saying adaptation is missing.
He's saying to mitigate the damage, but that's okay, but that flips the way traditionally mitigation is used. Without trying to get too technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll admit that when I hear you say way, it rubs me the wrong way, because it
Well,
just mitigating greenhouse gas emissions,
oh, yeah.
I
I'm
don't
fine with,
talk about it that way myself, and
Yeah.
when people do, it seems really still different.
I'm fine with doing dramatic reductions, it's okay.
And then I also had a thought today, whether it wouldn't be better than just to say the town of Milton, to be clear that we engage Milton residents, businesses, and town government. Or engages Milton residents, businesses, and town government to help them achieve dramatic reductions in greenhouse gas pollution.
I think it's really long.
It makes it longer,
Yeah.
yeah. But I guess the thought was making it clear that this is not just a town government activity, but a collective activity.
Could you collapse that into something like Milton community?
Sure. The Milton community,
It's good.
Like that.
awesome.
Going back to my initial point, I guess that I'm still hung up on reading this as only greenhouse gas emissions prevents damaging impacts from climate. It's what reductions rate and prevent damaging.
I certainly thought of it as the two tracks of resiliency and emissions reduction. Is there a wording change that might clarify that? It's sort of like, do you read it as reductions in greenhouse gas pollution and thereby preventing damaging?
That's
Yeah.
to me, again, it's just gas out.
Yeah,
How about something like, Climate Action Planning Committee advises the Milton community on how to mitigate the damaging impacts from climate change, and particularly by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So you have the broader notion of,
that's the main goal, is to avoid the damaging impacts.
Yeah, I would just stop at damaging to climate change period. I tend to be on the Zen side of it. I mean, without the rest of it,
I can see that.
yeah,
I mean, just don't say reduce
yeah,
emissions at all.
Yeah, because that would be one sub that you could list about
yeah.
10 things underneath.
Yeah,
What if it said like, achieve dramatic reductions in greenhouse gas pollution and prevent its damaging impacts? It being greenhouse gas pollution.
Emissions.
but I think I got the point being that there are gonna be damaging impacts. Already, and so some of the
Yeah.
mitigating is resiliency work.
How about prepare for the damaging impacts?
One of the nice things about what Ron has suggested is that the tagline is shorter
Mhm.
and you get mind share.
Yeah. So does somebody wanna,
Oh, fair.
yeah, repeat it again and I'll.
The short
capture it.
short version.
Author is not the best author, so not just trying to make this. The Climate Action Planning Committee advises the Milton community on how to mitigate the damaging impacts
Of climate change,
from climate change.
period.
Advises the Milton community. On
Like
how
advises and
to.
engages, advises and engages.
Yeah, that's nice.
And engages
The Milton community
on how
on
to.
how to mitigate the damaging impacts. So,
Of climate change.
yes,
What do you think?
I get what we're trying to say, but I feel like we spend so much of our work on trying to reduce the greenhouse gases. So I hate to take that out. Advise and engage, community. Just how to reduce greenhouse gases and prevent its, climate damaging impacts.
I think you're looking for just a simple message. So I think what Arthur suggested, provides that, simple, memorable
Yeah.
message.
And if we can keep their attention for a second sentence, we'll probably end up mentioning greenhouse gases. Yeah, I am a little uncomfortable taking it out as well, but I also find that the word counts that make me comfortable, and I tend to lose my audience.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely open to this,
It would go great with the logo too.
Oh, I have something to say about that one.
um. So is there a motion?
Can you read it out loud?
Sure. The Climate Action Planning Committee advises and engages the Milton community on how to mitigate the damaging impacts of climate change.
My motion that we adopt that.
Second,
All in favor? Great. We have a mission statement, and I will send this over to you.
Thank you. Before we leave this topic,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up something about this. Because looking at the mission statement, I've been thinking about this. So it's nice, it's a good drawing, but I have two problems with it. Number one is it's not really a great logo. I mean, it's not really suited for like putting on top of a letterhead and seeing it clearly. And the second thing is that it doesn't really say who we are, except by its initials. This talks about the Milton's Climate Action Plan, but we really wanted to say, or be a logo that says Milton Climate Action Committee, Planning Committee. So, I don't know, we
I
can
think
talk
they-
about this.
They did conceive of it as a logo for the plan.
No, for the plan itself.
Yeah.
That's okay. But, okay, but just in the interim,
Do we need a logo?
I guess maybe that. So
Well,
this is like for the plan document, is that what you're saying?
well, and
That's okay.
practically speaking, I was slapping it on presentation materials that I conceive of as coming from this committee.
Oh, how does that look?
Fine,
Okay,
yeah, what's the practical alternative?
well, the practical alternative would be one, to see if the font could be changed. Well, if this is just for the climate action plan, it's great.
Mhm.
But if we are looking for something that can go on emails or letters, then I would suggest changing the font or just having something simpler that just said the Milton Climate Action Planning Committee.
Yeah, we can definitely look into, I mean, they delivered the design assets.
Yeah.
I don't recall whether the file we got here was in an editable format or not.
I don't think so, but they did provide, the idea behind it was to have different elements that you could then take from that main design and then use in like headings and for.
Oh,
They broke down some of the iconography.
Oh.
Yeah.
Files.
I was just looking, I don't see just the M in there now, but it's very possible that it's in there.
I have a thought
yeah,
on what could be our logo. So what if the M with the cap and then we could somehow extract that and have just the word committee underneath it? That's like a little simple.
yeah, that's nice.
But let's bring that back up to discussion. I certainly, if we can find somebody who's got the skills.
Yeah, or you can share the icons or the various.
Yeah, they're in the SharePoint right now. I'll go through and look to make sure everything's in there. There's a folder specifically for design elements in there, in the Climate Action Planning Committee folder,
Okay,
the SharePoint.
I can ask my wife, she can do graphic design.
So let's move on to topic number 3, which is discussion of the high school student survey results. So unfortunately, Kira, who did this work and compiled the results, wasn't able to attend the meeting tonight. But I've distributed her slide deck with the results. Asked her if she had any particular summary comments to share about it. She said no. So has everybody had a chance to kind of look through this?
I don't recall seeing that.
Well, maybe we can
Let's do a walkthrough, can we?
yeah, a walkthrough, yeah. Although I want to try to keep this to around 5 minutes, because I think this is a useful resource that can inform our thoughts going forward, not necessarily something we have to act on tonight.
Yeah.
Right, so she's given us a breakdown of the grade levels of the respondents. You know that there's a bias towards freshmen, I think because there's more effective messaging there. Very few sophomores. We have some data on people's modality for getting to school, although, you know, we don't know how representative this is. It's illustrative, right? This one I haven't.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't read it too deeply.
Yeah, I think it seems to touch on the responses being a little bit broad, indicating not a deep understanding of a lot of these issues.
It sounds like a microcosm of society in general.
Yeah.
This is, I think, pretty interesting that social media and school are more trusted information resources than the news. Although that reflects some trends I've been hearing about.
Yeah, in general, more trusted, but more frequented.
Yeah.
Frequented, sure. Well, I think we tend to frequent the sources we trust. It's practically.
True. And then, yeah, she has some priority questions, just asking folks to rank what they think is most important. Nobody ranked lower than a 3. And then here's the 5 out of 5. Using clean renewable energy sources, getting more renewable energy sources, weather events.
Is several supposed to be severe?
Could be.
Could be.
We can ask Karen.
Yeah. Both would be applicable, I think.
Yeah.
For less 4 to 5, reducing energy, increasing tree canopy, wetlands, reducing waste generation, whereas in composting, recycling was on 5 out of 5.
So I think she had this list and they ranked them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. Otherwise, I'm saying, wow, they have a incredible mastery of the topic areas.
I asked her, she hadn't replied, I asked her to provide the different prompts, but we could probably get those.
Okay.
And the lesser 3 out of 5. Which electric vehicles were 3 out of 5, which is interesting. These are the issues they'd like to see addressed.
This is all fair. Yeah.
And here are other suggestions. Must have had a open-ended prompt here.
It feels like what they want from us is what we're trying to do. That's my initial reaction. So.
Yeah.
I see no surprises and
Yeah. A lot of work compiled in the survey.
yes.
It'd be great to have this as a benchmark for future surveys.
I mean, I think it's really tough to do a representative survey. But there's a great deal of value in just putting the topic in front of the survey respondents, right? I think we need a lot of repeated touch points with the community to get people thinking and talking about climate change and so even if you can't draw statistical results from a sample, I think there's still value there. And potentially insights as well. Any other thoughts or comments?
Now that we have it, what do we do with it?
I think this could be part of our marketing materials, like, the article in the Milton Times about this would be kind of cool.
Would another be, communicating it as part of a broader community survey? Saying, this is what a sampling of the students said, now what do you say?
Yeah,
Yeah, try and,
yeah,
Yeah, using it as a kind of jumping off point for further conversation.
It also helps test the questions too. To see if they're the good,
yeah.
the questions are the questions we want answered or information on.
Do we have a website? Putting this up online?
Yeah,
We do need to
yeah,
revisit our town website committee page
yeah.
in the near future.
Yeah, so we could definitely put a link to a survey like this on the committee webpage, and then we also have a sustainability and resiliency page on the website, and just in general, talking about what we're doing in town, that we could put this on as well.
Yeah,
Alex, you mentioned that, when we talk about future generations, that resonates. And so here we have some data that show what
Yeah,
the upcoming generations want.
I think this group may not be surprised that our town's youth cares about this issue, but now
Yeah,
we have a little bit of evidence to back that up.
yeah.
Yeah, I think those are good suggestions.
I wonder if the greater response from freshmen has to do with somewhat better education, climate change at the middle school level than previously. So
Has it
that
changed
those people that are freshmen are more attuned to the issue than the juniors or seniors. Just possible.
Yeah,
I agree.
Once had a long conversation with a middle school teacher about this. And he claimed that all his students were very much very knowledgeable about climate change.
also freshmen are more rule followers than sophomores.
More inclined to respond.
I was also thinking about the design we want to have when we do something on a community-wide basis, because we want to do multiple segmentations and matrices so that we can track by age group, where in town, location in town, gender, socioeconomic, whatever we can get. And my guess is that the younger parents are probably going to be like the ninth graders versus
Yeah.
many of the older parents. Not all, that's not a universal. Being an older parent.
They're trends. Wait. Any further comments?
Could we share this with the Milton Times?
I see no reason why not. We can certainly, we'll ask Kira first. Would you actually have a problem with it?
I think it would be great, and, having students meet with the reporter and go through it.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful, and
Yeah. And
the
they
Times
could-
report was excellent.
And they can add that the committee is planning to adopt this survey on a townwide basis, and you can
Mhm.
access it through this URL.
And also an opportunity to mention that we're gonna be adding a youth member to the committee,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yeah.
Uh,
This woman, there's a woman that, I don't know whether anybody saw it, but somebody did an article about me in the Milton Times a couple of weeks ago. And the woman who did it is great, and she's really into the climate issue. Her name is Elaine, somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
Really
a
good.
top-notch reporter.
Top-notch. Yeah.
Well, great, this is an exciting idea.
Yeah.
Marvelous. So let me move us on. To item 4. To discuss our committee members' intentions for continued service for another term beginning June 2024. So amazingly, it feels like we just scratching the surface here, but we've coming up on the end of our annual term in June of this year. And to get ahead of the lag time on getting appointments to the select board and approved, I think it would be helpful at this meeting for each of us to just quickly indicate whether we're interested in continuing to serve on the committee next year. I think no need for a vote or anything, but go around the table and share that, then we can start signaling to the select board who wants to continue and what openings there might be. So I would like to continue to serve next year, and Mary Stefanidakis let me know that with conflicting commitments starting this summer, she's not going to be able to attend meetings regularly, and would like to resign her seat.
I'd like to continue, but I really thought about resigning because I do have a lot of other commitments, and I'm just feeling my age, which having turned 80 this past year and moving quickly toward 81, I'm finding it hard to be as active as I previously was, and yet I have a lot of commitments. So that I've thought about resigning, but I haven't decided to do that.
And I don't think a firm decision one way or the other is necessary right now. It's good to put that out there. I'd also say that I would hope that anybody who doesn't formally serve next year is still kind of in the broader community of folks working on this. At whatever
Yeah,
commitment level.
it's something that I'm very interested in and would like to continue to serve, but I'm looking at reality a little bit too.
Well, John, I have 2 more on you. And I know what you're talking about. But I would love to have you continue. I mean, I enjoy very much everybody in this group. It's amazing how much talent there is there. If the Conservation Commission wishes me to continue, I'd be happy to do so. And I will speak with the chairman and I'm sure you'll say, continue.
Yeah, I forgot about that, bring rules, even more committees involved in, in this renewal.
I just don't want to speak for him. Okay, but I will call John, and I know he'll say yes.
I am planning on continuing, and I wish I had more time to commit.
Yeah, I think that's a universal.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot on your plate, and I wish I could do more to help you.
I think, yeah, anyway. We're all doing what we can.
Yeah, I will kind of continue until we get a plan in place. Hopefully, will be in the next year at least.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Ron. Just hit my other brain that there may be a distinction between the planning committee and an implementation committee of the plan.
Mm,
That may require a different set of people and skills in being musical or of the town units and other elements within the community.
And Carl, something we need to clarify in the plan.
But it might not
Yeah,
be too early to be thinking about that, and as you said, put it up front so that people know this is coming down.
Do you recall if our mission specifies that it is the creation and the implementation?
I have it here. Let me see.
remember it being, it mentions implementation, but not the, well. Parker has it in front of him.
Yeah.
If to measure the implementation, so it wouldn't seem that after the plan is done, we would then evaluate implementation of the plan, which would suggest there's a window there, somebody else to be responsible.
For the
Except the plan itself, I think we need to include some kind of implementation proposal. Otherwise,
Agreed.
it's kind of, yeah.
Or is
It's
it-
getting a little off the topic,
Yeah.
but, I think in the absence of a committee and in the absence of dedicated staff associated with the plan, there's not gonna be much implementation.
And it's for the town to implement, right?
I don't know.
Well, we are in town, I don't think that it will sort of magically occur just because we bring it up. Great, and so that leaves Maggie, I will follow up with her to find out her intentions. Great.
What is the formal process? Does the select board have to approve the continuation of members or? How does this work?
And, the charge seems to imply the, ongoing existence of the committee, that they have to reappoint
Each year?
Yes,
each year.
because all of us, each of us is appointed for 1 year term,
Oh,
renewable
oh,
until
okay.
the hereafter.
Okay. So item 5. Okay, this is the first, meaty one. Discussion and vote on a recommendation to town meeting for the specialized building code article, it's Article 37. Have folks had a chance to review the materials that I shared? I mean, in the interests of time, they've been presented at 2 warrant committee meetings, a master planning implementation committee meeting, and a public forum, so it's been out there in public. Happy to review it, if folks aren't familiar, but if you are, I'd love to just dive into discussion.
I know we've had this on the agenda before, so I'm maybe not looking at it at the. I understand it.
I think the newest piece of information is that the warrant was published and the warrant committee's written argument against adopting it is now available. Right, so I think I spent some time drafting responses to their points, but I'm, curious to hear from others first.
They definitely didn't like it.
I watched that warrant committee meeting and I really wondered, I sense as did you, and the depth of understanding.
Yeah,
And where they were going with respect to, policy.
did they have any input from us before they met? Or,
Well, I went to them twice
oh, you did?
as a representative of Sustainable Milton, because Sustainable Milton voted in January to sponsor it. And so I have not, because we haven't had this discussion, I've never said that the Climate Action Planning Committee supports this. And my objective in putting it on the agenda tonight is to be able to say that between now and town meeting. But also to get the input of this.
Can you describe your experience in interacting with it?
So I think they reacted with an excess of caution, which is not unfamiliar from paying attention to town debates on change of any kind. I think their concerns are not out of nowhere. They're real concerns. I think that they have exaggerated the potential downsides of what is essentially a fairly narrow, tailored update to the building code that applies only to new construction. Historically been about 12 new single-family homes a year in Milton over the last decade. Now, and the reason we're doing this now is because we anticipate with MBTA, there may be some substantial multi-family developments in the next few years. Not going to be as soon as it looked like it might be in January, but still probably on the horizon. To try to there is a 6 to 12 month cooling off period between adopting it at town meeting and it coming in force. So trying to get ahead of any of that development to make sure that those buildings are built efficiently and are ready for where our energy economy is going, where it has been. A lot of the developers I've spoken to say that they build large multifamily developments to LEED standards anyway, because it's like economical. So,
So it's kind of codifying something that's really already happening in most cases.
I think it's a mix, right? I mean, where things can be economical, but people who are not comfortable with it or haven't gotten up to speed on it kind of need the push, right? And you can see that with it turned out that the fire station, I had some initial conversations with Chris Hayden and Consolidated Facilities. He said that it was heated with heat pumps, but that turned out to not be true. We did space heating with natural gas. They looked into solar panels and they were expensive at the time and decided not to do it. I think there's a long-term view of where energy costs are going that's sort of absent from that decision, right? Because Massachusetts is committed to constraining the growth of fossil fuel infrastructure and electrification. That means that there will be fewer and fewer subscribers to support the natural gas system. Costs are going up, right? And you're building a building that's going to be there for 50 years. You build
Put
it,
heat pumps in.
and all the specialized building code requires is pre-wiring, right? So like you were telling me earlier, that to install heat pumps, you have to go from 100 amp service to 200 amp service, and that's an expensive project. Imagine if you wanted to do it because fossil fuel prices had tripled over the last 10 years, right? Then you're in kind of a bind. When we're talking about new construction, it's a much lower cost to put that wiring in place when the walls are down and the building's first going up.
Yeah.
But maybe I could go through quickly where, there's sort of key concerns, and they've written down some responses to them. So the first concern was that dual fuel homes are required to install solar panels, while full electric homes would not be so required. To require dual fuel homes, but not fully electric homes to install solar panels constitutes a penalty and a deterrence against dual fuel homes. So one, I would just say deterring the expansion of fossil fuel use is legitimate, but I don't agree that it's a penalty because solar panels have a robust return on investment. Where the capital is available, it generally pays itself off in 5 to 7 years. So characterizing that as a penalty seems off base to me. And if you're financing them, which new construction is usually financed by the builder, it can be cash flow positive right away if the sort of increased construction costs that translates into a little bit more mortgage payment. If the energy cost reductions balance that out and save money from day one. And a lot of construction projects have seen that. It of course depends on interest rates. Second concern, there are no additional financial incentives for implementation of the specialized code as compared to the current stretch code. That's just not true. Adopting the specialized code is one of several prerequisites to qualify for the Climate Leader Communities certification, which is like Green Communities 2.0. It's not the only requirement. So if we adopt the specialized code, we won't immediately qualify. But the requirements are to be a green community, so check. Have a local body that advises the municipality on clean energy and climate initiatives, check. Commit to eliminate on-site fossil fuel use by 2050 in municipal buildings and operations. So that's something that would need to be in our plan. And I guess town meeting or the select board would have to endorse it, which is part of what we're working on here. So create a municipal decarbonization roadmap. That's what we're working on here. Adopt the specialized opt-in building code. And the final one is adopting a zero emission vehicle first policy. So that'd probably be something that we'd have in our transportation section of our plan. So it doesn't immediately qualify you for funding, but it's one element on a checklist that does. And the grants associated with that are for studying, designing, constructing, and implementing energy efficiency activities, procuring energy management services, adopting energy efficiency policies, and citing activities related to construction of renewable energy generating facilities. So there wasn't like a simple story to tell the warrant committee about what money would be available, especially since all these grants are competitive and we've put ourselves at a disadvantage on that front in the near future. But it does come with some incentives. Unclear how much opting into the specialized energy code would cost homeowners. It only applies to new construction, so it will cost current homeowners nothing directly. And they had a concern that electrification will prove unaffordable. Doesn't mandate electrification either. But it does avoid foreseeable expenses for future electrification. Finally, there are concerns as to the grid capacity of the state and the ability of the state to update and maintain our electric grid. I worry about this too, but I worry about climate change more. And Eversource has filed plans to increase grid capacity 180% to support full electrification. Also, peak demand under the stretch code is expected to only be 5% higher because that's why there's this really stringent emphasis on energy efficiency in the stretch code updates, which are happening regardless of this vote, because they're trying to control the load growth curve, make sure that as electricity is used for more and more heating and transportation, that the demand doesn't grow out of control. And then I think the last one I understood the least. They looked at the fact that the stretch code has been updated periodically, and the current stretch code updates that are applying automatically in Milton in July, because we're already on the stretch code. Those are a little uncomfortable. They have a significant increase in the energy efficiency requirements of new construction, going from a HERS rating of 54 to 42, roughly. And that applies to some large renovations and additions as well. If you put an addition on your home over 1,000 square feet, then the whole home has to be brought to that new energy efficiency rating, which will be expensive. I think that will definitely impact whether some people do a large addition or not. And so that's uncomfortable, not popular, but also not part of the specialized code. It's part of the stretch code, which is happening regardless of this vote. So they looked at that and said, look, but we opted into the stretch code by becoming a green community in 2011. And now this is just happening to us whether we like it or not. And couldn't the same thing happen with the specialized code? They call it's like signing a blank check. And they've sort of characterized the process for updating the codes as flip-flopping and it being at the mercy of the bureaucrats. All I'd say there is it's a national, if not global, process sort of run by an international consortium and it's a public and transparent process that involves many stakeholders, including builders and city planners and contractors. So it's by no means arbitrary. And, building codes have a long history of being updated to keep homes and buildings safe and to adapt to changing technologies and best practices. So it seems like it's fair to be nervous about not having guarantees, but it's hard to imagine a world with a human legislative process or regulatory process where future changes can be foreseen. I don't think it's in the state's interest to pull some kind of bait and switch to put specialized code communities on a much more stringent requirements than stretch code communities. From everything I've heard, it's more likely that the stretch code is just going to continue to update until they're all kind of aligned.
It sounds like if this comes up at town meeting, this is an opportunity to really be part of the debate and make some positive points in terms of what we're working on and what we're thinking about, rather than worrying about the objectives. And I think if we were to both support this as well as come in and speak up at town meeting with some very positive points that I think are pretty easy to find in this.
Yeah.
I think it would go a long way toward the general education that we're looking to to do. And so I think from that perspective, this is something that we need to look at from a higher view and pick out the positives and work toward emphasizing those.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually that was exactly my thinking in agreeing to take this on back in January. That, you know, I wasn't super excited about having my first, sort of run through the town legislative process be on something that's a mandate. Because at the end of the day, these are rules that people have to follow, right? And that's not, people don't love more rules. But it was clearly an opportunity to get in front of a lot of different decision makers in town and start talking about climate change. You know, begin talking about the state's electrification strategy and why that makes sense. And also agree, like.
And what this contributes to it.
Right, I mean, I think this is the right choice for Milton, but also I would much rather approach it in a collaborative way, in a respectful way for people who are not there yet. And have it fail this year, then, you know, pull out all the stops to make sure it passes, but leaving people feel like there was some kind of zero-sum fight. We've had enough of those.
Well, it seems consistent with our mission to support this.
Yeah.
So we're voting on whether we as a committee want this to go to, that we're endorsing this.
You're recommending a yes vote. Yeah, the warrant committee recommended a no vote. It'd be great, I think, if the climate action planning committee says, you know, we've considered this and we endorse a yes vote. I also think I'm going to be speaking as an original sponsor, as a board member of Sustainable Milton. If somebody else from the committee was willing and able to speak as a representative of this committee, more voices, that's a good thing. I very much welcome that.
What's the date?
It starts May 6th. I've never been to a town meeting yet, so I don't know.
Did you run the ballot this year? Are you not? Oh, are you?
No, I
You're
didn't. I didn't run. I thought about it, but
Then
my
so-
wife said I was exceeding my extracurricular time budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be asking the moderator to beforehand.
I've already done it.
You
Yeah.
did. Okay, good. So then, I think your strategy is sound.
Mhm.
Two suggestions. One is an information piece for the town meeting members,
I've actually already done that.
no more than 2 pages.
There's a 2-page letter with links to way more. I also made a 5-minute YouTube video and a 15-minute YouTube video
Okay.
with the same content that I've been doing. Roughly the same content that I've been doing. It's been a struggle to distribute it to town meeting members. At first it sounded like I could send it to the moderator and have it distributed, and then they told me that I could do it through the website, and then that turned out not to be true. And now there's a page where they're gonna post stuff and they're gonna direct town meeting members to look there, which is.
And then you can also, there's a table as you enter town meeting, and physical copies of papers can be placed there.
We'd love to get that in front of people before the meeting.
It's just a lot to absorb, because I think one of the reasons people resist this is it sounds like a lot when, you know, after you put a few tens of hours into it, you realize, oh, it's kind of a narrow change.
Yeah.
This is further down the agenda on the,
Article 37.
right?
Yeah.
So by having it there for the first night, people can take it and hopefully read it. It might be good to think about having somebody from the industrial community, business building community,
Yes,
one or two of those people, they will be probably much more persuasive.
I've definitely been working on that. I'm not 100% sure where they're going to come down on it. I think from the perspective of builders, this stretch code update that is happening in July is painful. It definitely requires, them to overcome new challenges and like, how do you build um, buildings that are attractive and economical and also meet these diverse rating requirements. So I think there's a reluctance to bite off any more at the same time. And I understand that, and in the absence of the kind of urgent timeline surrounding climate change, I'd say, yeah, take it one step at a time. But it's also, as the analogy that occurs to me is, it's like saying, well, we shouldn't have moved forward on vehicle fuel mileage efficiency in the '70s until the car makers were happy with it. And
Right.
they went kicking and screaming, but then they said it was impossible, and then they did it, and then they did it again.
Yeah.
I believe that, particularly if everybody's got to do it, the builders are going to figure out how to do it. It's going to accelerate the learning curve. They could, anyway, so I think I've gotten mixed messages. There are a few architects who may support, but they haven't committed to it.
Should I be one of them by chance?
I mean, I don't want to call her in public, but she's been very, very helpful. Yeah, so I assume so.
And she's chair of the implementation committee for the town and on the planning board, so that's really good. I'm trying to check, this goes to town meeting, would it require a 2/3 vote?
It's just a majority vote.
It's only a simple majority, which is great, but if it affects bylaws, that may require a 2/3.
There is a bylaw change mentioned in
I'm not sure. I got it down. So I'll talk to Nick about it.
Right, so we want to make sure it's clarified up front early on.
I'll need to leave by like 7:45.
Okay,
So I think I will move that we vote yes.
is there something? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Marvelous.
Okay. And Alex, could you put this out, that it was the unanimous vote
Unanimous vote.
of those
Of those
in
present.
attendance,
Yeah.
those present, yeah.
Okay,
And witness town meeting?
May 6th, 7th, 8th,
I'm not back yet.
9th, 15th, 12th.
Just around the corner.
Okay, item 6, and we'll try to keep this moving here. Discussion of the Apex pathways analysis and its use in developing a climate action plan. Did everybody see the Apex pathways report?
This is the one we've had.
We got it a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
So they finally sent the final version with numbers.
yeah. And, they have the reduction pathways and the final strategy recommendations. And then they also, have, like graphics and, I'll share the screen. It's tough because, one of the documents is very large, so it takes a long time to load.
And my objective in putting this on the agenda, for me, it really kind of bleeds into the next topic, which is discussing the timeline and next steps for drafting the climate action plan sections. I wanted to have a more like a high level discussion of how we would use that to frame the climate action plan structure itself. And we talked about this at the last meeting, but again, I think repetition is helpful. To kind of work out an idea. Like, I think we have to strike a balance between the plan being complete in the sense that there has to be enough in there that it's enough to bring us to the goals.
Right.
Net zero emissions by 2050. And having some kind of quantitative tool like this that says that these are the big outcomes that must occur
Yeah, still,
to address that whole pie, right?
yeah,
So I'm aware, we've got this Milton specific one, and then there's also the state level roadmap, which lays out kind of not strategies, not actions, but goals, outcomes that are sufficient to get climate warming pollution under control by 2050. So I think that has to play a role in the plan, in the sense that we should be able to make sure that the plan includes all those goals and some strategies and actions against those goals. On the other hand, that's probably going to be more than this committee is resourced to actually make progress on. So there needs to be some actionable near-term next steps that we actually feel like we can go make some progress on as either this committee or as the town. And there has to be a balance between those two things. I think the point of having it be complete enough that there's stuff in there that we don't have the resources to do is that's the role of a plan, right? The plan shows you where you have gaps that you need to go address, right? That's the only point I wanted to make. I had hoped to bring a draft section to show you all or get it to you before this meeting to give you an idea of what I mean in more specific terms, but I didn't get that done. So I'll share it with you when it exists.
I think that the plan that we have at the moment, too many different elements in it, and that we need to consolidate and maybe focus on 3 or 4 sections or sectors, however you want to call them. And as new things surface, we either bring them into the existing structure or they get tabled. But I think we need to consolidate what we have in.
I think I disagree based on what I just said, that I think it has to be complete.
Yeah.
I think that there will be, in the sense of having a complete set of goals. For this percentage of buildings are using electric heating and this much reduction in vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah.
We may not have the first clue about how to make progress on one of those goals.
Right.
And the near-term action item might be find the right partners and form a working group to get ourselves out of the ignorance. But I wouldn't feel comfortable sending a plan out to anyone that didn't that had a narrow set of goals that's not enough to address our emissions targets. And that was my point, and I think that's the value of this Apex study. It gives a set of, I think it's a little incoherent to me in terms of like, what's the strategy, what's an action?
Yeah.
And some of them are very vague, like reduce household energy use. But then that's not quantitative at all, but then there's quantitative verb associated with that, so.
Yeah.
I think there's some translation we need to do,
Yeah,
into like, what specific outcomes did they use to model those pathways, but.
I wish I saw maybe like for each of their action items, like what they predict the reduction. Like if we accomplish 50% of that action, 75%, 100%, how much would it affect reducing our emissions? So I
Yes,
feel like
it-
that's real, like,
they have like a general for each of the sectors, like by 2030, the target level is gonna be reduced by 15%. Like for transportation, for example, I use, right here, share it on the screen so you guys can see. And then, so by 2030, you know, the sector target level is 15, reduced by 15%. 2040, it's 58, and then by 2050.
Now, what are those
it's 100%.
percentages? What are those-
That's below the initial year, which would be 2017.
That's already converted to an emissions reduction.
Yeah.
well, I guess what I'm saying is like, one of the actions is to implement bike racks and lockers in central hubs in Milton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, what is
I
that,
somehow doubt that they
Yeah.
fed that into a model and got numbers.
right? I mean, is
And-
the lack of bike racks and lockers preventing people from biking?
Right, that's why I feel like the chief value is in understanding what are the outcomes they use to model these numbers.
Yeah,
I think the outcome is something like reductions in vehicle miles traveled and
Yeah,
adoption of electric vehicles with some assumptions around the emissions trajectory of the grid.
mhm,
And those are going to be really rough predictions anyway, but it's more to get that sense of completeness, right? Like, because without this, you could say, well, let's just focus on, you know, sustaining our natural lands and maximizing carbon sequestration. It sounds nice, but it's just not, there's not enough emissions reduction potential there.
right,
It's necessary but not sufficient, so the plan has to have more.
Oh, we don't know.
We do know
Did you know
that, we know that,
that?
yeah,
I didn't
that's
know
from the source I would reference is the state level carbon roadmap. So that there is a quantified carbon sequestration potential of Massachusetts natural lands. So it's a small fraction of what we're putting into the atmosphere. But also it's the net and net zero, so we can't ignore it. It needs to be
right.
sustained and maximized. But anyway, that's the role of this sort of thing. And I assume there's a Milton specific version of that number in here somewhere, but the orders of magnitude is such that I'd be really surprised if it was a qualitatively different answer.
So our charge right now is to discuss implementing.
Yeah, I don't think we have any votes to make here.
Yeah.
I would like to, I think at our last meeting, we talked about getting a draft written by June. And,
Yeah.
I wanted to check in with you all about how that's going. And what that means.
Right.
Sorry, I just wanted to say about the inventory and the reductions is, the reduction pathways is a guide. And in order to like gauge that, I think continuous greenhouse gas inventories will need to be done over the years to sort of compare the impacts of what, any changes
That
made.
fits in our measurement,
Yeah.
ongoing measurement.
Yeah.
Charge, for sure.
Yeah.
But is it worthwhile to review the various things that people are working on to determine in terms of priority, in terms of measurement, if we should continue, collapse, integrate them? I mean, my impression is that there are, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 different tracks that people are working on, maybe I'm wrong.
It's a lot when you do the emissions reduction and resiliency.
Yeah.
My experience is, feel like I could maybe, come up with enough bandwidth to get the emissions reductions pieces done, over the next couple of months.
What would
I
those
raised my
be?
hand for flooding several months ago and haven't made any progress yet.
Yeah,
Also, adaptation and resilience wasn't in the charge originally. It seems, like a travesty to leave it out, but you might be able to get away with having, first delivering a plan that only deals with emissions and then following up with adaptation, especially since we've had, a municipal vulnerability preparedness process already. It's not like no work has been done in that space, but
so if we just dealt with emissions, it would include what, buildings, transportation,
waste,
waste.
Conservation.
I said, no, but you just ruled that out.
no, it's part of the equation. It's just not big enough to be the only thing we do.
Oh, I see, okay.
They're all necessary.
All the things.
So there are 5 things. Are there more?
I really don't know this off the top of my head. What were the categories in the inventory? Can't believe I'm blanking on
Transportation, buildings, energy, conservation, and waste.
it. Mm-hmm. I think Tracy had added, fugitive emissions at one point, but she was running with that, and I don't think anybody
Yeah, fugitive emissions, sorry.
took it over. It's also not one of the largest.
So buildings, energy conservation, waste, lands.
I had wildfire.
Yeah, that's in the adaptation bucket. So if we add resiliency and adaptation, there's heat waves, droughts, flooding, and wind
Severe
damage.
weather.
Yeah, intense storms.
Pull up that original document.
So, I mean, I'd love to just talk like tactics for
Yeah,
getting the work done. One thing that's been nagging at me is that we've actually had, a fair number of people raise their hand and say, I'd like to help recently, and weeks and months have gone by and haven't really engaged their help, and I'm not feeling great about that. I think we're almost there, since I'll acknowledge Ms. Johnson, who's on the Zoom, demonstrating her engagement, who, not yet appointed to the committee, but the select board approved our request to expand the committee, and we were able to get it on the agenda tonight to, update our recommendations on appointments, but hopefully we'll schedule a meeting soon to, like an intra-month meeting to just do that so that we can get that handled. But I'd love to, I mean, there have been other people who say they'd like to help. who maybe have some expertise in one of these topics,
Mhm.
short of joining the committee, how can we accept that kind of help?
See, I think that if we consolidate, we just focused on mitigation, like you suggested,
First, yeah.
and just dealt with building, energy conservation, waste and lands,
Transportation.
Yeah,
that's four. And,
yeah, fugitive emissions was the fifth one.
what was that?
Fugitive emissions was the fifth one.
Oh, I don't even know what that is, but.
That's like natural gas leaks, refrigerant leaks.
Couldn't you collapse that into energy or one or the other? Anyway. I kind of think that if we can boil this down to 4 or 5 and we can form small mini groups. My thought was, at least in terms of the conservation land section that I've been working on, was to try to have a meeting of a small group of stakeholders to review what I've essentially drafted with a little help from Maggie as a plan, get their input, get their endorsement. And then we have really a leg to stand on, I think, with some greater support. And we could add volunteers, but it would be helpful if we thought of the volunteers strategically to come from or represent or connect with one of these 4 major platforms.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and last time we talked about, one of the things in the public engagement plan was forming technical working groups on each of the topics.
Yeah,
So to me, that fits perfectly with what you just said.
right.
But I'd ask, practically on a human level, how do you guys feel about actually convening working groups? Do we need to like target a weekend? Say, hey, we're gonna like get together and, but, you know, in different rooms so that we don't have a quorum. Like knock out some of these sections. Should we have one Saturday where a few of us get together and do buildings or another, yeah.
Well, just speaking
we
for
schedule it.
conservation, I mean, I've been speaking methodically to 3 or 4 conservation groups.
Mhm.
The Audubon, Friends of the Blue Hills, the Ponds of River Valley, all of whom have read the draft, are interested and would come to a meeting to flesh it out a little bit.
Mhm.
So I'd be willing to do that. It would take, planning and then a half a day and then hopefully come out with a section of this plan and would have some bona fide endorsement by people who know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
Ron, I'm sorry.
I'd be willing to meet for a good time, because I feel like if I just try to make it, find a new here and there,
It's very slow going, working along.
it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I kind of need to be forced to do my homework. So former teacher.
Question for Ron, on your last comment, would you want to meet with the Milton Concom?
Yeah, I think you're part of it.
Yes,
Yeah, that's your group, yeah.
I,
Yep, not individually. I've already met with you or some, I've met with
you and I,
and the guy from the Public Works Department,
Chase,
Chase. So, yeah,
I
so,
think that would be, I'll talk to John Cannon about scheduling it. Let you know what the next meetings are.
excuse me?
Would you like to meet with the Concom at one of its regular meetings?
No, I'd rather have somebody from Concom come to a meeting that I organize that would also include somebody from Friends of the Blue Hills, Audubon Society, etc. That would be better, because I've had individual conversations with you and a fellow from the Public Works.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's a meeting then with all of these other parties that you would organize? Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
With the objective of writing the
With the
first
objective
draft
of
of that
taking the
section.
draft, well, there's already a draft. With the exception, with the expectation of fleshing out the draft, putting some commitments to it, and maybe thinking of how it will be implemented.
It's buildings, transportation, conservation, waste. So, I mean, I basically have been running with buildings, you've been running with transportation, conservation, and waste, right? And we want to get a working group of at least 2 or 3 people who are able to really contribute to writing something in the next month or two. So, yeah, just wanted to put that goal up
That's a good way
there.
to go.
I feel a little daunted, but I think that's what we all need to be doing,
Yeah.
finding some time for that. And, you know, of the applicants for service on the committee, we already know there's some expertise in conservation, some expertise in transportation available. There's no need to wait for them to be formally appointed to accept their input
Right.
with that. I think to arrive at a coherent document, we need kind of a agreed upon structure for it. I know we've talked about that before, but it still doesn't feel clear to me. So I would like to produce an example to share with you. I will commit to doing that as soon as I possibly can, and hopefully in the next few weeks, the building section. One thing I've seen in a lot of plans that I think works really well is this hierarchy of goals, strategies, and actions. You gonna say something?
Yeah, I don't wanna not toot my own horn, but you might take a look at the draft that I did for conservation lands, which was based on an outline that I think Stacy put together. So that would be another possible model.
I think the key point I wanted to make though is the goals need to be physical outcomes in the world.
Yeah,
And so I think the challenge I saw with conservation is that we're not quite sure what those are for conservation. There's a general understanding that like we need to care
oh, yeah.
for
So
these
that's
lands
the-
that we've got
Yeah,
here. But what, in terms of emissions, like
yeah,
how would you even characterize the goal? I think that the state's climate roadmap might actually have some things you could just cut and paste.
yes, and so would presumably the people that would be part of the technical group, yeah.
And then under goals, there's strategies, and those tend to be more qualitative, like you know, support residents in being successful with clean energy projects in their home, right? And then actions would be the kind of thing you could actually assign to somebody, and it would have you know, a smart, time-bound, actionable objectivity to it. And we may end up having goals with strategies but no actions, you know, in areas where more research is needed.
Mhm. Yeah,
I think as we're each writing our own section of this, and we have an overall plan of what that should be. I think we still need sort of an overall editor of the document to sort of pull it together, and also to make sure that it gels. Are you going to be the overall editor, or what's the plan?
I'm certainly willing to, I'm willing to do that, well, compulsive enough to do that. but, open to, assistance and feedback as well. And I guess I have tactical questions about how to accept collaborative input without running afoul of the open meeting law. So I think if, each of you will be the kind of expert on your section, so it would be natural to have the main author of the section work with me on integration. Wouldn't be just one person doing it.
Next steps are to schedule some time to do the work.
Yeah, I want to encourage you all to get rolling. And if you can let me know as if you make progress in that direction, I'd really love to get kind of an example, in your hands.
Yeah.
So that we don't produce dramatically differently structured documents. But if you just get going, and if you're like on the point of having a meeting, that'll light a fire in a minute.
Yeah.
Your friend you can do it. All right.
Is this, facility available at meetings?
Town hall,
Yeah,
Jack, if committee members wanted to bring together a working group on town property somewhere, what's the?
I mean, I would say the library would probably be the best bet. I don't know about getting in here, like to use this room.
Is there a fee to use the library?
I'm not sure. But we do have, just a sign up sheet in there for, you can schedule any meetings that you'd like.
where is that?
It's with the town administrator. Just the overall schedule of where,
So you'd send an email to
different-
Mr. Milano and ask,
Yeah.
I'd like to schedule a meeting.
yeah,
The library has some small
Who does?
office kind of space. If you're like 4 people.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that caught something or not.
Yeah. So, I don't know though, if you reserve it or if it's first come.
Okay. Anything else people want to discuss before we move on to item 8, member updates? I'm sorry to give this short shrift. But let's dive into that. Since you said you need to be out of here by
Yeah.
quarter of 8 or so, why don't you go first?
So, I brought this up at the last meeting, but there's some due dates for it. So through the Department of Energy, they have this Clean Energy to Communities program. And there are a bunch of different programs that you can apply to. There are in-depth partnerships, and the proposal for that's due June 14th. And communities could get up to $500,000 in subcontracting funding and up to 3.5 million in technical assistance. There's peer learning cohorts. I don't think you get money for that, but you could like meet with others. The due date for that is April 30th. And then there's this expert match where you get matched with experts who would assist. Like maybe we could get someone to assist with pulling this plan together. Or, helping us implement the plan or different things, So there's applications for that, and I don't know, I mean, I could apply for like maybe the expert math or the cohort one.
What's the ask of us? Please.
Well, I just wasn't sure. I mean, it would be kind of like, who applies? Does someone in the town, like planning office need to apply? Can we as a committee apply? I just need some clarity on how that works.
I think I failed to respond to you because I had the same kind of reaction. It's like, well, somebody's offering something, so that's interesting, but I'm presumably to accept help, you need to know how to focus it once you have it. And
Right.
given that we're in a situation where people are offering to help and we're not taking them up on it, I felt unprepared to
Yeah,
act on it. That was my reaction, but I'd love to flip from unprepared to prepared
yeah.
all of a sudden if possible.
I know just having access to grant money could be really nice. And since this is a federal program and not a state program, we would not be disqualified. So I don't know, do you have any knowledge on how that kind of thing works?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, we need to show, like, Alex said, the ability to use any funds that you get or in a plan to, prepared plan to, show whoever you're getting the grant from that, it's gonna be a good decision for them to award it. I'm not familiar with these specific grants.
Okay. Well, I've emailed people about it, just trying, and haven't heard back, so.
What kind of, I mean, if a committee member just went off rogue and applied for a grant and got it, like, would that be breaking a rule or?
I think, any entity can apply for a grant. Specific grants are, geared more towards towns or, nonprofits. It would depend on the grant. And I don't know with, the fact that this committee is part of, it's an extension of the town. I don't know whatever difficulties the town has getting grants. I don't know if that would extend to the committee as well.
That's why federal is interesting.
Yeah.
We're not out of
Yeah.
the federal government's good graces yet.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, the expert match, right? Like, it's not money that you're getting, but
Yeah.
access to an expert. It says, it's for community stakeholders who have decision-making power or influence in their community, but need access to additional clean energy expertise to inform key upcoming decisions.
So that sounds like it would be.
That sounds like
this
us.
committee As opposed to any of the town staff.
And I'm not hearing any reason why, if you felt like you had time to take a stab at it, that you couldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, help me devise a transportation plan. I know we have Apex.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore, yeah.
Well, I mean, we have
Yeah.
their deliverables, so, okay, well, I'm going to apply. Because I would like an expert to help me with this.
That's a good insight. Who would love to go next?
Alex, how about if I just share the revised charge from last night's meeting with the select board with everybody so that they have it, and I'll send you and Jack electronic copies tonight when I get back. Just didn't have time to do that before the meeting. The only changes are on the second page and they're highlighted in red. These are consistent with the recommendations of the committee, and they were unanimously approved last night by the select board.
It was a surprisingly climate change focused select board meeting yesterday. I'm not the only climate change topic on the agenda. And thank you again for leading that conversation. I think it's
Anyway,
So, question, 9, the high school student one. That's added, am I right?
yes, so there'll be 11 members.
Okay, and
That'll be
within or without the town of Milton?
That's what the committee.
Okay,
it's a resident of Milton, but they could be going to BC High.
Right, Phillips. be a Milton High School student or student at Milton Academy or Fontbonne.
And forthcoming Milton Times article about the new for the help us
Yeah,
connect with this program.
And I like the idea, John, of starting somebody in the 11th grade.
What I did, was I pulled out last time I tried to find a student to work for my company. And, what I did was I had a cover email and then an attached, 2-page letter, with each one. But the thing was that I have the name of and email address of the principal as well as the head of science at Milton Academy, Fontbonne Academy, and Milton High School. I also had a couple of others that I extended to, but just in terms of Milton, I focused on those three. And so I sent essentially the same email and letters to the principal and the head of the science department of the high school. And it was very successful. I had about a dozen students to interview and ended up choosing one that was very good. And most of my students generally work 2 or 3 years for me. Once they started, I usually start them as a junior in high school. And so what I was able to do is to essentially adapt my cover letter to a letter or to an email for you to send to in this case, the head of science at Milton High School. And I'm still working on the longer detailed letter, but what I would say in there is a little bit more about the people in like in here, when I described my company, I described the people that were working in the company as well as previous students and what they did and how they did it and what I was looking for. So that I think I can adapt this to follow that sort of more brief cover letter or cover email, and then just attach the letter to it. And as I said, that was quite successful in getting a group of high school students. It actually was a pretty tough choice to choose among them to get one. It turned out the one chose was from Fontbonne Academy, and she's now in her 3rd year working for me. And so this and the others were all similar, where they worked a couple of years at least and then went off to college. And so if we could get that same kind of thing within the student within this program, I think it'd be great. So whenever we're ready to go with this, I can have this on to you. Just send you the email or the cover letter and the materials.
Yeah, we should probably pursue that in parallel with the Milton Times article that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Hopefully get the word out between this meeting and the next, and then maybe at the next meeting we can discuss our selection process.
That's a nice.
Yeah, we gotta get this going before school's out too.
Yeah.
Although it reminds me, the writer is Elaine Cushman Carroll.
yeah. We should get her on our side. She's very good.
Actually, when the last time I did this, I did it toward the end of August, beginning of September. This was all done within that period and the end of the September, we interviewed all the students and by October first, we hired the person. So, I think it's doable and I think we should get a good quality.
I hadn't
young
considered,
person.
what if we get dozens of applicants, then how does the committee do interviews for? Figure it out.
Yeah, I think, a subcommittee of the committee can just interview the people and, move to, decide on, and recommend one of them.
So I'll definitely add an agenda topic for youth member selection process for our next one.
Yeah, so it would be, a subcommittee.
All right, anybody else have an update?
I just had been talking to conservation group representatives. Finally, got somebody from PLC. It was very hard to get a hold of. At least the people working on the phone. But I have contacted one person, or he's contacted me, and I've spoken to, as I said, a number of other groups. And Monday, thanks to you, I'm going to attend a meeting of the Shade Tree Advisory Committee and make a presentation of the conservation component of the plan as far as it's going, and try to enroll them.
We're on the state's wetland protection and is in the process of being upgraded with a focus on salt marshes, estuaries.
Oh,
They've been having their public hearings on those during the last several months, so that's another area maybe I can help you out on some of that.
okay. I assume the deposit people would also.
They are very much involved in it, yes.
Yeah.
And they were at the select board meeting last night. Both their attorney and representative of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Yeah, I've spoken to them and they're willing to be part of this,
Good.
whatever we're calling a technical group.
They're really good to work.
Yeah.
So I spoke about specialized code, which is really most of what I've been doing other than preparing for this meeting. So I will not say any more on that topic. Did you have any updates on the
No, I've had a lot of emails back and forth with people, but I haven't had any meetings since the last meeting. But I should be having more over the next month.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. So always wish I should probably put it earlier in the agenda if I wanted to hear more. So the last thing is upcoming events. I just wanted to mention the townwide green up is the weekend of May 5th. And Sustainable Milton is having a green fair that weekend as well on Saturday. And it's an opportunity to for this committee to have a table or some kind of materials. I'm definitely planning on being there, and I'm trying to get my head screwed on straight about what might be there. But you know, I think now we've got the mission statement that'll be on the table somewhere. I think slides on the sort of 4 pillars of the state's climate strategy and some of the climate actions that ultimately residents will need to be participating in terms of home energy, clean electricity, getting off fossil fuels for heating and transport. So some kind of materials around that, but just an opportunity to
Where is it gonna be?
It's gonna be here on the green,
Oh.
on, I think, 3 to 5. On it's May 4th, to Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it'll be 11 to
I'm gonna
4.
call and
I think they, oh, yeah, sorry, so don't listen to me, go to sustainablemilton.org and then it's right there on the landing page.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'm afraid I will be out of town. I really wanted to
Too
attend.
bad, so sad. But anyway, that's happening. Any other events to?
Alex, do you wanna, look at a time for, Zoom
Oh,
to handle like, appointments?
yes. So I guess that could be, how much time do you think we need?
For that meeting?
Half an hour?
I would hope we could do that business for that 30 minutes,
Yeah, so let's.
because we made considerable progress at a previous meeting.
A half hour time slot, just it needs to be 48 hours or more from now, so next week sometime.
Yeah.
Are there any limitations on, like, can it be during working hours? From the open meeting law perspective?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, so it has to be in the evening?
Sorry. I can find out.
I want to, omit the 30th, which is election day.
Right, not the 30th. May 1st,
Friday?
that's a Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
May 1st, or
May
3rd?
3rd. No,
You said 3rd, so Friday, May 1st is Wednesday,
Yeah,
which,
and,
which day?
May
What?
1st.
May
One.
1st, Wednesday, May 1st.
May Day.
6th,
Okay, yeah,
does that work for people?
sure. And that'll be a Zoom.
Yeah, we'll just Zoom and we will, the topic will be, recommending members to be appointed from our existing application pool.
Good.
Next Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
And then our next meeting is scheduled for May,
And
The next regular
Third
scheduled
Thursday.
one,
Yeah.
17th. Or no, sorry, the
The
16th.
16th, yeah.
May 16th.
that's it.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So,
And a second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any of the adjourn, sorry to keep you late.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.